Well, everyone, Apple's event just came out and they just released the M1 iPad Pros, and these are some crazy things. So let's go ahead and kind of do a quick little comparison between those and the iPad Pros from last year, the iPad Pro 4th Gen. Now, design-wise, they are pretty much almost exactly the same. Do keep in mind that the 12.9-inch iPad Pro, the M1 one, does have a way better display, the XDR display, whatever they call it, mini LED. That is going to be a far better display, or at least a noticeably better display than the iPad Pro 4th Gen, but those displays are still really good in my opinion too. There's also on the iPad Pros, the M1 ones, you have the Thunderbolt support now, which is, I think, one of the bigger changes, to be honest. I think the display thing is a pretty big change, but having that Thunderbolt option allows you to connect another Thunderbolt display to your iPad Pro, and that is something that's extremely awesome in my opinion. Now, the iPad Pros are going to be cheaper, the 4th generation ones, in the long run than the current, M1 iPad Pro, so keep that in mind. But currently, I think they're around the same price, to be honest. The cameras on the back also are pretty much exactly the same, but you do get a better front-facing camera on the M1 iPad Pros, and now it's an ultra-wide 12-megapixel sensor versus the iPad Pro 7-megapixel sensor. I imagine you can do things like 4K at 60 on the front, I'm not 100% too sure, but it is an ultra-wide sensor now, which is a really big advantage over the standard wide-angle lens that you have on the iPad Pro 4th generation. Now, on top of that, because you do have the M1 chip, there's not really like an apples to orange comparison between the A chip and the M1 chip that Apple makes, but do keep in mind that they did say that the M1 iPad Pros are going to be 50% faster in CPU performance and up to 1,500 times faster in graphics performance than the iPad Pro 4th generation, or what they said, previous iPad Pro. So that's a pretty big change right there. On top of that, 2 times faster storage on the M1 iPad Pro, but you also have the ability of going up to a 2TB option on the M1 iPad Pro, where the iPad Pro 4th generation only tapped out at a 1TB option. So again, a little bit of a change right there. I don't think it's like an insane change, but it is a worthwhile thing. And I'm going to be completely honest, it's a pretty big change, to be honest. Now, we're also getting the 5G support on the M1 iPad Pros, so that's another pretty big advantage. They also did mention that you're getting the same, if not, all day battery life on the M1 iPad Pro than on the A12 iPad Pro 4th generation. So I imagine battery life is going to be the same. For the most part, you're getting almost the same exact kind of iPad on the outside. A majority of the changes are on the inside, unless you're talking about the Thunderbolt port as well as the display. I will say, if you have the iPad Pro 4th generation, I would probably recommend keeping it. I think the M1 iPad Pro is going to be an insane value when you talk about the performance you're getting and the longevity, but I will say I would wait until Apple kind of gets the things figured out within it, because it is going to be running iPadOS, and I'm not too sure how well iPadOS is going to hold up on the M1 chips, just like how in the beginning macOS, I currently own an M1 MacBook Pro, and it's gotten better over time, but there was an issue with, I had a bunch of software issues early on, so I wouldn't say you have to go and upgrade the first day it comes out. Let the software run its course, and I'm actually really happy these things are going to be getting iPadOS 15, because Apple right now is working on iPadOS 15, so it's going to be worthwhile when it comes out. But those are pretty much the main changes. I think for every other intensive purposes, the iPad Pro 4th generation is still a really good value. The biggest change, in my opinion, the Thunderbolt support, obviously the faster performance with the M1 chip, but also the better display on the 12.9-inch model iPad. So that's pretty much it. Quick little comparison. I'm going to be buying these, comparing them full and all that stuff. If you guys have any questions or want to see something particularly compared, let me know in the comment section below. Hit the like button, that would mean so much, but definitely hit that subscribe button. Every single subscriber that we get really does count, so it means so much if you guys can hit that. Also, check out the other links down in the description as well. My Twitter, my Instagram, my other channels. More importantly, everything else, I love every single one of you guys. Hopefully I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace out till then.